going on, everyone? Welcome to the Behavioral Arts. My name is Spidey and I use my degree in sociology and psychology, my certifications in criminal interrogation and body language analysis, and over 10 years experience as an award-winning mentalist to teach people behavioral analysis and practical psychology on stages and television shows all over the world. This week we're looking at a video that so many of you sent me. It's one of the most requested things I've had in the last couple of weeks, and it's footage of a woman on an American Airlines flight, and she seems to be worked up about something and she wants to get off the plane, and she's yelling that something or someone in the back of the plane is not real, and that's why she's getting off the plane. And I think the reason a lot of you wanted me to take a look at this is because there's inherently something about the way she's communicating that seems a little off, a little noteworthy. So a lot of theories flying around on the internet, a lot of rumors. This went mega viral. It has millions of views, all kinds of versions, all kinds of people chiming in. So we're gonna look at some of those videos and we're gonna look at the main video, obviously, and look at her behaviors and try to figure out what's going on here. Did she really see something back there that put this fear in her? Or is this someone who's acting out to get some attention? Let's jump right in.
Say whatever you want. I'm telling you, I'm getting the fuck off, and there's a reason why I'm getting the fuck off, and everyone can either believe it or they cannot believe it. I don't give two fucks, but I am telling you right now, that mother back there is not real. And you can sit on this plane and you can fucking die with them or not. I'm not going to. Bye.
Okay, so that's the video, and I know that a lot of you already have some opinions here. In fact, I'd love to hear them, and I want to know if at the end of this video, your opinion will be the same as it is right now. So based on what you just saw right there, pause the video, head down to the comments. Let me know what you think is going on here. Is this a cry for help or attention, just trying to get some attention here? Do you think she's actually experiencing something that's truly scaring her? Do you believe that we're seeing something real, at least to her, here emotionally? Let me know in the comments. Whatever thoughts you have, whatever you saw, whatever you're feeling, would love to hear your first impression thoughts. Okay, now my turn. So it's been difficult to try to declutter this a little bit because there's so many narratives out there. If you read the comments, so many different versions. I heard this, I know a passenger, my cousin was on the flight, my uncle works for American Airlines. Now, one of the narratives that is very popular and circulating like crazy out there on social media, in the news, is that she was reacting to a young guy in a green hoodie. In fact, I'm gonna show you guys footage right now. This is a TikTok video by an account called Meta-Cowboy, and I'm going to show you this narrative that she was reacting to this guy in a green hoodie.
So here's the video of the hoodie dude. Check it out.
Oh, this is her bag. She's gonna get her bag. Do you want to get her bag out so we can get this going so you can all go?
Okay, so before I talk about this green hoodie thing, I just want to say that Meta-Cowboy is not the only account who has tried to push the narrative that this is what she was reacting to. This is just one of the videos that I found, but a lot of people are trying to push this narrative forward, and it's absolutely ridiculous. Take 2 seconds, think critically, and compare the two videos, and you'll see why this doesn't make any sense. If you look at the video of the guy in the green hoodie, the bins up top to store the carry-on luggage opens downwards. It's one of those bigger flights where the whole thing opens downwards and you can usually put bigger carry-on bags in that. If you look at the footage of the woman having a fit, you see the storage bins above and they open upwards. It's the ones that have a latch and they just open upwards. It's the thinner latch, and it's not even the same type of flight. So no, she's not reacting to this guy. This guy's not even on her flight. This is footage from a completely different flight that somebody decided to take and say, oh, that's what she's reacting. And even at that, I don't get what the big deal is. I mean, the title says his eyes are off. How are they off? I mean, he's looking to the left, and yeah, I guess one of his eyes is like moved a little further left than the other one, but that's not that uncommon. You know, different eyes move in different ways. I'm not sure what's off about his eyes, but again, that's besides the point because this has nothing to do with that woman. So in summary, I will not be getting my news from Meta-Cowboy moving forward, but I do encourage Meta-Cowboy and other influencers who are pushing this narrative to just take a look at the footage. You can see that it's not the same plane. It's not the same kind of storage bins, and it's okay. You may have missed it. It's totally fine. You know, I guess it's subtle, so it's possible that People could have missed that, but now we know. Now we know it's not the same flight. So just take the video down, because at this point, all it's doing is pushing a false narrative. It's clearly not the same flight. There's clearly no connection between the two events. And again, that's a big part of the challenge of what's going on here, because there's so many narratives out there, so many people saying so many different things. So again, let's just stick to the facts, what we know, what we've observed. So let's first look at the reaction of other passengers on the flight. In fact, there was a passenger on the flight that some of you may know, Carrot Top, the comedian, was on the flight, and he was very public about this and his opinion of it. So here's a video of him commenting after the fact, so the plane was delayed for a couple hours, and then eventually it took off again. This is him talking about just his impression of what happened.
Yeah, I give my hats off to everyone at American Airlines today for how they handled the situation. That nut job just lost your mind in front of the whole plane. And 5 hours later, we're here in Orlando. And I hope you're having a relaxing evening behind bars in Dallas, Texas. And hope you enjoyed your little stunt.
Okay, so there's Carrot Top, and there's no real need to analyze any of his behaviors because he is just flat out talking about, where he is and what happened earlier that day. But there are a couple of important things about what he's bringing up. First is the fact that when we look at this video, the narrative out there seems to be, okay, what's happening here? Is this fake or is this real? In other words, is she completely faking this for attention, or did something really spooky happen back there? Is there a being that she saw that's not real, some kind of ghost? Which of these two is it? Well, Carrot Top brings up an interesting fact. There's a third option. So it's not just, is she making this up or is this real? There's a third option where it's real to her. She thinks something happened when it didn't happen in fact. So that's a third possibility. So in the video, Carrot Top is being pretty blunt, pretty direct. And he seems very irritated, because of this delay and everything that happened. But what's interesting is, even within his statement, it's unclear what he thinks happened. Because first he says she lost her mind. So, she's not of sound mind. But then he says, I hope you enjoyed your little stunt, suggesting that this was just, an act she was putting on. So I don't think he knows, I don't think he cares what's going on. He just seems to be irritated by this whole thing. Now, if we look at the original footage and we look at the passengers around her, Carrot Top's attitude seems to be their attitude as well. Notice how none of them are panicking. None of them are like, oh my God, something's going on. Like, we need to get out of here. They're all kind of looking around confused. There's one to her immediate left that is just looking at her and just trying to figure out what is going on. And there's several other people that we see as the camera is moving towards her that have that same attitude of just looking at her like, it almost seems like they're looking at her going, what is going on with this woman, not what is going on in this plane. So what is going on with this woman? There are a couple of really important behaviors that I want to talk about here. And I actually want to start by talking about the research on lie detection. So there's obviously a lot of controversy out there about lie detection. The reason for that is because behaviorally speaking, when we are being deceptive as human beings, no two human beings are the same. There are a lot of emotions that all over the world we experience more or less the same, that we communicate more or less the same. Deception is not one of them. You might lie different than somebody else might lie, different than I might lie. We all do different things when we're lying. So there's been quite a bit of research out there, and there has been research that showed certain behaviors are tied to deception, but then another study showed that there is no such connection. And then this one disagrees with that one, which disagrees with that one, and that's normal because no two humans lie the same way. So what do you do when there's that much disagreement in the social sciences? Well, you do meta-analysis. Meta-analysis basically takes hundreds of studies and compares what they found to see if there's common ground. But here's the crazy thing about meta-analysis when it comes to lie detection. Even the meta-analysis disagrees. Over the last couple of decades, there have been 3 major meta-analyses on the subject of lie detection, and even they disagree. So Zuckerman and his team found that shrugs and adapters, which are gestures we do to soothe ourselves, were often seen in people who were being deceptive. But the 2 other meta-analyses didn't necessarily agree. Spohr and Schwand found that when we are being deceptive, we see less movement in the hands, in the legs, and in the head. So we move less when we're being deceptive. But the 2 other meta-analyses didn't necessarily agree. So think about it. We're not just talking about one study. We're talking about people who took hundreds of studies and said, this is a theme, and someone else said, no, not necessarily. Again, it comes down to the fact that no two people lie the same, which is why in behavioral analysis, we look for clusters, a lot of behaviors. Because if a lot of these things are happening at the same time, then it kind of raises the odds of deception a little, but you can never be certain that someone's being deceptive based on behavior alone. Anyways, all this to say that after all is said and done, when we look at all the studies, when we look at all 3 meta-analyses, there are only 2 behaviors that seem to generate quite a bit of agreement. All 3 meta-analyses agree that both these behaviors can be connected to deception. And those 2 behaviors are dilated pupils, so when the pupils dilate, and the second one is a rise in the pitch of the voice. Not the volume. They don't get louder, but the pitch. Their pitch goes higher up. Now, I want to make sure we all understand each other. I'm not suggesting that dilated pupils or a rise in pitch mean that someone's lying for sure. So don't go out there and look for dilated pupils and go, aha, this person's lying, or listen for someone's pitch to go up and go, that person's for sure lying. Other stimulus can cause these things as well. Being stressed or really excited could cause someone's pitch to go up. Certain substances or light can cause pupils to dilate. So I'm not saying that deception is the only thing that causes these behaviors, but when people are being deceptive, these 2 behaviors are seen very, very often. So why are we talking about this? The reason we're talking about this is because I bet that most of you watching this video instantly noticed the pitch of her voice going way up. So that's not a normal pitch. I don't have a baseline on this woman, but I can guarantee you that's not her normal voice. And we even hear it getting higher and higher. It starts off already pretty high, but as she's going, it goes even higher. It goes to a pitch that I think has an effect on people, which is I think part of the reason this video went as viral as it did. I think we all instinctively know that that pitch is not normal. So am I saying that she's being deceptive because her pitch is all the way up there? Not necessarily. It could be that she's being deceptive and that this is all just some sort of play she's putting on and that's why her pitch is up there. But I don't think that's what it is. I think to understand what's happening, we have to look at why the pitch goes up in deception. When we're being deceptive, we're quite often stressed. And our brain goes into survival mode. And that stress can constrict the muscles around the throat, and that causes the pitch to rise. It's very possible that what we're hearing here is her being in survival mode. There's something about that pitch that just sounds really like we're looking at someone who's experiencing fight or flight response. And in situations of real panic, I have heard vocal pitch go to that really high place. In fact, anyone who's watching this, who's dealt with trauma response or PTSD and has seen someone go into a panic mode, you might be familiar with this. I bet that some of you are going to go, no, I know that tone, and that's real panic. So could it be deception? Yes. Could it be real panic? I'm leaning more personally towards that way, just looking at that pitch. The second behavior that's really, really important in this video is something we talk about a lot on the channel, and I wonder if some of you paid attention to it, and it's blink rate. So blink rate is the number of times we blink in a minute. And the average person ranges somewhere between 14 to 21 blinks in a minute. Some are higher, some are lower. We're all over the place. She blinked, I think, 0 times in that entire video. I watched it more than once. Maybe I missed one, but I didn't count any blinks. But let's just say I missed 1 or 2. That would still be extremely low. She's going a long time without blinking. Now again, I don't have her baseline. Maybe this is someone who blinks very rarely, but 0 times in this clip, or maybe 1 time that I didn't see, is extremely low. So does blink rate go down with deception? Well, it can. There's a great study, and they found that for a lot of people, during deception, blink rate goes down, and then it goes up after the lie. That being said, there are a lot of experts out there who will tell you that during deception, blink rate goes up. And does it mean that one invalidates the other? No, because again, we all lie differently. However, research shows that there are 2 physiological states that very consistently lower blink rate. And it's funny because they're almost opposites. One is having your head in the clouds, kind of daydreaming, right? So when someone's just kind of daydreaming, the blink rate goes much lower. The second is focusing on a visual stimulus. So something that has our attention, if we're focusing on it, our blink rate goes down a lot. In fact, when we're reading or when we're working on our computers, our blink rate dramatically decreases. But this also happens when there's a threat, when in the presence of a threat. When we're focused on that threat, blink rate drops a lot. So if we look at her, we have that rise in pitch, we have the inexistent blink rate, and I also want you to notice this chin. It keeps moving forward. As she's yelling, we're seeing what we call a chin thrust forward. This is quite aggressive. This happens in fight or flight mode when we're about to confront someone. One of the first things you might see is that chin come forward like this. In fact, I have a video on the channel where I talk about nonverbal signs that you could see that will alert you that something's about to get heated. I'll leave a link in the description. There's even tips on how to de-escalate when you see that so it doesn't get to a confrontation. But chin thrust is one of them. We said chin come out. This is someone subconsciously kind of starting that lunge, starting that attack. Another thing I want to talk about is her focus in that moment, because I want to look at her behavior not just isolated, but within context. So first of all, if we look at this woman, obviously she gives a certain amount of importance to aesthetics, right? She's on a flight, and I travel a lot, and I see all kinds of people ranging from, wearing the utmost of comfortable clothes because they want to travel in comfort, to people who are dressed in suits and dresses when they travel. If we look at her, her makeup is done, she's wearing some nice jewelry, and her clothes are form-fitting. So she's not dressed for comfort. There's a certain thought given to looking good. I'm not saying she's ready to go to some event, but there's some thought given to looking nice in public. She's not careless about the way she looks. However, in this moment, none of that matters. She is in public having this meltdown, and she does not give an F how she's coming off. So any thought she ever gave to how she appears in public is gone now. So in social psychology, we study Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And this is a model, it's a pyramid, where at the bottom you have the most basic human needs. And as you fulfill those, you move up the pyramids. Now there is some debate over the hierarchy of needs, some controversy. For example, if we think of somebody who is fasting for a cause that's important to them, they're giving up basic physiological needs for things that are higher up, like love or esteem, or things that are more socially important to them. Now, there's debates back and forth, because you can come back and say, no, they're not actually giving up shelter and food and those things, because they know that those things are not actually at risk. They still have access to those things. Another very valid criticism is a parent who would die to save their child. So their own physiological needs, which is the bottom tier, would be compromised for something that's a little bit higher up. So yes, there are certain situations that, jumble this order up, but generally speaking, in most cases, we're trying to fulfill our physiological needs first, then safety, then love and belonging, then esteem, and then self-actualization. We typically move up. So if we look at this woman, anything that has to do with the social needs, so right in the middle there, esteem, love, belonging, it's at a 0. She does not care at all about belonging in this moment, about status, none of that. So in most cases, when we see that, we assume it's because one of the bottom tiers hasn't been fulfilled, because she's not moving up. So to me, this lack of social awareness is very telling. You'll notice how even as she's screaming, between her breaths, between her screams, she's not looking around to see, oh, am I making a fool of myself? How are people taking this? She is dead focused on something. Her pitch is up, her blinks are down. There's just something completely off about her entire demeanor. I also want you to notice that there isn't a plea to the other passengers in this moment. Like, guys, come on, there's a threat. We gotta go. Come on, everyone, we gotta get out of here. So that really, in my head, leaves two possibilities. The first is that she's really in such a deep survival mode that she's not even thinking about anyone else, just her own survival. Or two, there's a part of her in this moment that knows that they may not believe her, that whatever she's reacting to isn't that much of a credible threat. Now, by the way, I'm not saying that I expect everyone in a moment of stress, panic, or threat to behave exactly the same way. Because every now and then in my videos, I will talk about something like this. I'll say, I would expect her to kind of make a plea to the other passengers. And I get a few comments of people going, no, not everyone's the same. Everybody reacts differently. I know that. That's pretty obvious. I think what a lot of these commenters don't understand is that they confuse my process for my conclusion. I'm not saying that because that element of this is missing, that for sure she's being deceptive or this doesn't make any sense. It's not. It's just a note that I would expect this, But I'm not necessarily seeing that, but let's keep moving on and seeing what else is going on here. Because, of course, no two people are the same in the face of a threat. Okay, so what does it all come down to? What is going on with this woman? Listen, if you're looking at this and you're going, it's an act, she's putting on an act, it's deceptive, that's why, you know, we get that pitch going up, she's all worked up over nothing, she's trying to get some attention. I can't disagree with you or disprove that theory in any way. However, I personally believe that we're seeing a real moment of fight or flight here, and that this is some sort of response to trauma, whether that trauma really exists or it's perceived in her head. So it's not a secret. A lot of you know I did therapy for years. I've seen a lot of trauma response. I've seen some episodes that were pretty intense, and this reminds me of those. There doesn't seem to be this kind of act of trying to get attention. She's very focused on this thing, and to me it seems like she's actually terrified of something. Am I necessarily saying that the thing that she's afraid of doesn't exist? I'm not saying that, because again, we're lacking context, right? We don't know what she's going on about. However, I will say that it doesn't seem like anybody else is scared of anything or anybody else saw something. So it's possible that she saw something that nobody else saw. I'm not for shaming someone who seems to be having a really hard time. That's not the goal of this video. I don't want to mock this woman by any means. I'm just looking at this video behaviorally. So it's possible that something happened that she saw, that she thinks, believes, or perceives as being a real threat. But the fact that nobody else really is responding to that, I'm not so convinced of that. I'm not 100% convinced of that. There are also a lot of people saying that she might be drunk or on some sort of substance. I do think that's a possibility that, you know, she took some substances that triggered some kind of response. Maybe she takes something before a flight to relax, to calm herself down. Maybe it had an adverse effect. I don't know. Could it be a psychotic episode? I absolutely cannot diagnose something like that, especially through a video. I don't think anybody can. But if a doctor were to look at her and say, this could have been psychosis, I would believe that. All I'm saying is that by observing her behavior, I think that she's experiencing real trauma, real fight or flight. I would love to see a follow-up video from her. There's oddly little follow-up. I've been keeping an eye on it, and there really isn't an update. But I would love to see a video from her, you know, even if it's just her going, guys, listen, I know my behaviors were a little all over the place in the video, but I swear I saw such and such thing. And I would love to see that. And maybe it'll change my opinion a little bit as to, okay, well, maybe she did see something. Or on the other hand, just a response of her going, yeah, listen, I don't know what happened. I was just feeling emotionally or mentally something was going on. Don't know what that was. But just a little bit more clarity as to what happened from her angle. I would love that. I would welcome that. But without that, it's just a short video. There really isn't much context. And like I said, my conclusion is pretty much that something's going on with this woman. There's this actual response to something that, whether it's perceived or that she actually saw, I think that this is a real panic, a real response to something. Right, so there it was, really a short one this week. A lot of you sent me this video trying to figure out, you know, is this an act she's putting on for attention, or is this a real response to something? There also wasn't that much body language to look at, just a couple of really interesting things that were happening that I thought were really fun to talk about. Let me know what you thought in the comments. I hope the weather is nice where you are. If so, enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you on the next one.